Welcome to Breaking Through the Hidden Walls. Motivation is not your problem. So let's get started.
It's not about getting it right, fitting in, or fixing. It's not about me giving you the magic pill that solves all your problems in one swallow, like just pay the price. That's not what this is. This is not about that. It's not about all those, like I'm going to give you a little bit of information, lead you to the edge, and then go, right, okay, guys, now you got to pay up to get the answers, right? I'm not about that. If you know me at all, and some of you do, I would probably give you my jacket off the back of my back, in order. Matter of fact, my coach tells me that I give away way too much for free, and I probably over deliver. So, it's good for you guys, not so great for my business and my bank account. But at the moment, we're not worried about bank accounts. We're worried about delivering and practicing. So, and I just really want my focus is to help her hearts heal. So to me, that shouldn't have anything to do with dollars or money. That should have to do with genuine and how much somebody really wants it, I guess. Yeah. Anyway, so that's me. That's my opinion. But what it is that for the next few hours, we're invited to listen in a different way than the ways you've always done it, to set a calm pace, to turn up without guilt, shame, in your own messy way, not perfect, but present. So I know some of you have your screens on, some of you don't have your screens on. That's fine with me. I actually don't push you to have your screen on. Don't say to you, you have to have your screen on or I'm going to kick you out, because some people don't like that vulnerability. Some people get distracted. Some people just don't want to be however they want. So you can turn up, don't turn up. However, I do also like to see people, because I interact. I see your faces, and it helps me to read the room and know where you're at too, so I can speak directly to you. So I can see nodding heads, and I can see people who, engage. So Kim and Susie and Molly, I see you all there, and Sherry and Kevin and Cal and Angel, who's popping in and out, and yeah, so I love it. I love being able to interact, and hopefully you can see each other too. You can change the different settings, and we'll stop the screens every now and then and maybe have a share. I can do some breakout rooms. Some people love them, some people don't. I'm just going to calibrate the room and see what you do or don't like, because I really do want to hear from you guys how this resonates and where this goes, because it's not about me, it's about you. So I want you to allow yourself to experience this workshop rather than completely understanding. So that's probably going to be the most challenging part. And if you're anything like me, you want to get in your head and you want to make logic sense of everything. You want it to be explained. You're probably a person who's got notepad and pen, and you just want to be writing all the notes down. But what I'm going to ask you today is to allow sometimes these things to just experience, and just what comes up comes up. Don't try to make sense of it, but more just try to record it if you want in a pen, or just go, that's interesting that happened, that came up. Like sometimes you have the most random thoughts that have nothing to do with anything, and you think, what's that got to do with anything? But they still have a feeling and they still have a connection. So it might be a glitch in that thing up there that went tapped on something else, but more often than not, there's a link and we're just not conscious to it. So allow that to come however it may. Any particular questions coming up? Anyone? If you're familiar with Zoom, I'm going to presume if you want to raise your hand, you can raise your hand. It's a small enough group. If you want to, you can just come off mute and jump in and ask questions, challenge if you wish. Yeah, if you do keep the chat box open, and I try to keep up with it, because I'm a chat box person, but sometimes it does get a bit overwhelming. But if I do happen to ignore a message that you think would be applicable, just come off mute and say, hey, there's a question you missed there, can you go back and answer that, or whatever. So yeah, so raise hand, chat box, we'll see how we go. Now, did everyone get a copy of the workbook? No? Okay. That what is something I might do right now is pop that in the chat box. So that's going to pop over that. Of course, it's going to pop on that screen. Uh, okay. The next challenge is find the folder that you put it in, Catherine. I registered late, no problems. I have another one that I'll be handing out midway too about working with parts. So if you are here, I encourage you to stay until at least halfway. I think it's partway through, about a third of the way through. I think this is it here. Here we go. So it has some areas there that you can answer some questions. The questions are kind of loosely connected to the PowerPoint. Sad to say, this PowerPoint, normally I'm very graphical and love color and splashes and stimulus pictures and all those type of things. This one's unfortunately a little bit word heavy. So I apologize for that in advance because I know nobody likes reading lots of words, but it is a lot of information. And sometimes I know that we are different personalities. Some people like visual, some people like notes, some people like different things. So I have the workbook there. If you're really tech savvy, you can print it straight away. And it's there. It's got a really cool quote on the back that I love, the I am statement by Virginia Satir, which is beautiful. So you can, after it's finished, if it was completely useless, the workbook, you can rip off the back and use the back as a poster. So you've got that to use as well. But yeah, so I just wanted to say this, there's a note here for adults. So we're all adults in this room. So if you know me, you know that I go full in, right? I don't necessarily, what do you say? How do you nicely say piss fart around? I kind of go for deep. We go deep and we go straight. So if you feel like at any time you need to step away, stretch, or take a breath, if you need to, we're adults, right? So I'm I'm going to ask that if you're here, you're turning up here as an adult. So you're owning yourself. This is not therapy. This is not me being paid to, to look after you or facilitate you or protect you from things. You're turning up here as an adult willingly. So if you have things that come up and that, please feel if you want to speak up or, you've got something coming up and you feel like you need to voice it, do that. Like if that's something you want to do. But don't necessarily feel like this is going to be like me there to save you or be your knight in shining armor type thing. As much as I know how many times I've wished somebody would come and just save me and whisk me off my feet. This is probably not going to be one of those sessions. That's probably more one-on-one stuff, and even then, with the work that I do as a coach, I take certain expectations that a person is not there for therapy, they're there for coaching, which means that they already have some feet on the ground as far as levelness goes. So you're in charge of your pace. The work we're doing today is gentle, but it's not shallow. So I'm not about to go, jump into your biggest traumas and shake you up and then send you away, right? But we may touch on some nerves and you may have some things that come up. So we'll move as slowly as I can and we'll calibrate as we go, and I'll check in for you. But if anytime you have questions or want to slow down or want some clarity or, or I've said something that would not surprise me, is anyone else in the room those kind of people that go and put the kettle in the fridge or, or put the milk in the oven, or anyone else like that around that? Yeah, no, yeah, maybe a little bit. Yeah. I'm one of those people, right? So sometimes it makes no sense what I said. Right? Just ask Angel, watch Angel's face. She'll be like, yeah, Catherine says the weirdest thing sometimes. So if it doesn't make sense to you, ask, because there's probably other people that think the same. They're like, what does she mean by that? So if you feel like that's something that maybe some other people might not have got or whatever, or need some explaining, please do that. If it's explaining how I'm crazy and a bit quirky, well, we probably don't have time to do that. But anyway, okay. So it's good to see some smiles. So buckle in and enjoy the ride. Here we go. So why am I here? That's the question you're probably asking most, right? Why are you here? Like, what brought you into this room and this day? So this is an opportunity to check in with yourself right now and just kind of think to yourself, yeah, actually, why am I here? For some of you, it's a Friday afternoon those in the States, those in Australia, it's a Saturday morning, like morning, midday, right? What the hell are you doing in a workshop with Catherine from Mildura, who's like, hardly know or maybe know really well, or what brings you here? Like, check in with yourself, because I know for me, I turn up to a lot of things and I'm like, well, why did I come? Like, what is the reason that I turned up here? So if you can be very aware of what it is that drove you to come here today, it might have been curiosity, and curiosity is perfect because it means that you're coming looking for something. But then if you're not intentionally aware of that, you can walk away with disappointment, right? Whereas if you could become aware of why you're here, you might be able to go, you know what, I did that and I might not have got something, or I might have got something, but the not getting something is still getting something then, because you're getting the answers to your question that you came seeking. And in a moment, we're going to do a bit of a meditation to kind of tap into our blocks and our walls, right? So we're going to go deeper already, right? But for now, it's just kind of checking in what brought you here. So I'm going to open the room and just say, is anyone willing to kind of share what brought them here today, where they're at in life? If they feel compelled, there's no pressure. I'm happy to go on if we don't, but if anyone feels like this is why I'm here and this is what I'm hoping to get from it. Fantastic. I love that. And anything that I make, you're more than welcome to steal, take, beg, borrow, rip apart, share. I'm
Thank
not
you.
like, don't touch that or don't share that. Um, I'm a sharing person. And yeah, if you can get some inspiration in how to share things with, with your clients, if you're a coach, you've got clients, you never know. Because something that I might say may lead you down another path. Yeah, that might be. Yeah, love it. Excellent. Anyone else? In coaches, most of my people that join up are coaches. Who else is a coach in the room? In the chat box, I start stuff and then lose interest and give up, or just can't get started at all, even though I know I should. Oh man, yes. Anyone else relate to that? Yeah. You're not alone, and hopefully we'll get some answers by the end of this session. Fantastic. Thanks, Cher. They're big, huge steps, right? So turning up and being here and pushing past that vulnerability amongst strangers and people that you don't necessarily know. And we haven't like talked for years. She responded, and it was yeah, like it was just like chance, or maybe other things, whatever we want to see within ourselves and whatever sits right. I can resonate somewhat, although ours is never the same. I can resonate somewhat of how it can feel very uneasy. And I was talking to someone the other day, and they really nailed it on the head as to what I've been feeling lately. And it's the inability to breathe properly. So it's like because you don't know where things are going. So you're kind of like holding your breath, waiting for something to happen. And it's like, once I realized that, I was like, oh, wait on, I can actually catch a breath, and I can take a moment to just go, I am okay. I'm actually okay. And then go on and hold my breath again and move on, whatever. But you can catch yourself. Once you're aware, you can catch yourself in that situation. So awareness in that situation and being brave and bold, you're already making the changes. And change is one of those things that's always difficult. We feel like, we just want things to stay regular and just stay the same so that we don't have to adapt. Personally, I find that very boring, but some people find that would be quite calming to know that same old, like, Groundhog Day. But how we navigate through them and how we experience them and how we deal with them, I don't know. I was going to add some stuff in here, but I just had no space to fit things in here about little T trauma and big T trauma. I've been listening to some things on Bessel, who's had it. Bessel van der Kolk and Gabor Mate have done a workshop, a 3-day workshop. If you're interested, I can send you the link. Angel actually shared it with me. So and it's on YouTube, but he talks very much about the big trauma stuff and the small trauma stuff, and how the small trauma stuff affects 80% of us in population. So, those regular things, but it's like clay. We're being molded and shared and grown and, into this particular vessel. right, that never stops growing and molding and shaping, right? It adapts as we go. That's why I love trees, right? Because trees are beautiful and unique, and there's no one the same. Their branches go different ways. It's not like they all have, okay, at this particular angle and this particular time, we're all going to turn left and then we're all going to turn right and then we're going to, they all bend and move and shape depending on the winds and the storms and the weather, right? And gosh, all the other stuff that I studied on the trauma should prepare to put into here was like, the big traumas are like the lightning strikes of our life, and the little t traumas are like the weather comes and little things happen, and how we respond to that is how it's going to affect us. Perfect example, Victoria, fires, some people affected, some people not. Some people stressing about whether they're going to have a fire, some people like are just going whatever, right? They're all going to have different responses to it. But the people who went to the caravan park who got swept away obviously were not even thinking about that as a possibility. So they were probably escaping that to go down by the river to get away from the fires, But so often we can't prepare ourselves for the things that happen in our lives necessarily to the extent that we think we want to be prepared to. So, but noticing that and allowing different things to be true is where we're at. And yeah, so Kim, just message me later and I'll send you the link. Yeah. Okay, so we're all here for different reasons. We're all here for whatever. If you want to share later on, we can, but for now, let's move on. So let's do a mindfulness practice. So when I do these mindfulness ones, I know for myself, I sometimes hated being told to do a meditation, especially that's one of my parts that comes up a lot. Don't tell me what to do. So if you don't like doing that, don't do it. Like, I'm not going to look at you and go, you're not doing it, naughty, I'm just going to invite you. If you want to, you can. And if you have a person who just journals or doodles, do that, or, or resist the whole way through. That's up to you, like there's nothing about have to's or expectations here. Just allow what comes. And this is one of those moments where I go, try not to overanalyze it or overthink it, and just be part of the process. If you want. If you don't want to, that's fine. So I'm going to walk you through this one, and then we'll see what comes up, and we'll have some questions to ask about this. So settle into a comfortable position if you want. You can let your body be supported. Notice you've got your chair, notice your floor, and then notice your breath. Your breath is your number one thing that you were born with, and it's the last thing that you'll have when you leave this world. So it is the vital key to all of this. So noticing where your breath is right now, is it shallow or is it deep? And just allowing it to be there as it is. And if you wish, you can allow it to let some more breath out, and just be calm, like allow yourself to calm and just breath in and then big breath out. So there's nothing you need to fix or force right now. Just arrive. So notice your breathing exactly as it is. No need to change it. And allow yourself to bring to mind one specific goal you've been trying to move towards. Not your biggest life vision, just something real and current. Might be cook tea, might be, like prepare something for something. Something that you've thought about, you've planned for, maybe kept circling without quite stepping into. Just hold it lightly. There's no pressure here to make it meaningful or impressive. Just allow it to just pop its little head in and go, you know what? This is something that I think would be good to test this out on. And as you think about this goal, I want you to notice what happens in your system. And your system meaning your body. Not the story, but the actual response. Do you feel openness, hesitation, maybe a slight tightening, sense of urgency, a sense of pause, maybe some irritation, maybe calmness or excitement or enthusiasm? There's no right reaction, just noticing what it is when you think about that thing that comes up inside your body. This is you communicating with your unconsciousness. There's no right reaction. Now, I want you to imagine a space between you, where you are right now, and this goal. Notice if there's something there. Like there's a reason you haven't done this goal yet. It could be time, it could be limitations, it could be your own personal limitations, it could be other external limitations. Just notice if there's something there. Again, try not to judge, try not to jump into solving. This is just about noticing. It doesn't have to be a problem, and there doesn't need to be any resistance, or maybe there's just a little bit of a resistance. But there's a wall. It might be a little straw wall. It might be a brick wall. It might be a mud wall. It might be, just something you can't even put words to wall, or like a boundary or a place where movement slows and you can just feel like if only you were to get through this, it would be easy to get to the other side. So you're not here to get past this. You're here to notice it, that it actually exists, because it's not about breaking that wall down and smashing it to smithereens. We have to know what the wall is first. Allow yourself to see. You can gently sense what this wall is trying to prevent. Don't go into the detail, just maybe a hint. Is it protecting you from getting it wrong, from failing, from being seen, from committing and not being able to turn back? Or is it something else that's protecting you to hold you in, to comfort you? You don't need any certainty around this. You just need some resonance, some awareness. It's like, okay, I see it. It's kind of there. Maybe it's metaphoric. Maybe it's physical. Maybe it's feeling. So now the shift so now notice the shift as I explain that this is something that just is. You are the one that's observing that wall. You're not the wall. You're observing that wall. You're not behind it. You're not blocked in it. You're aware of it. It's there. You can see it. It's this particular moment that is vital, because you are the steadiness. Feel the steadiness for the moment and notice how you're noticing the wall. You're noticing the thing that's there. And don't forget to breathe. Notice any tenseness in your body. Notice if you're holding your breath. Notice that you are the experiencer of this. You're not that wall. And if you can name that wall, now would be a really good time to name it. Name the wall with some kind of word that works with you, or whatever. When you're ready, you might want to write that down when you come back to the room. So I want you to grab that feeling, that word, that sense. You know what that thing is that you've come here to deal with today, or something that you've chosen. And as you come back to the room, just notice what it is that you want to write down, or what you need to become aware of. You don't have to share it with the group. You don't even need to understand it yet. Just notice that most of you didn't identify a lack of desire. You identified a pause, a hesitation, a tightening, a place where movement slows. And that matters, because if motivation were the problem, the experience would feel flat, empty, indifferent. But it doesn't feel indifferent. This is important to you, because so that's not what you noticed. What you noticed was care. This is valuable to you. Something in you is engaged enough to intervene. And that's the first reframe that we're going to go to. When movement slows, it's rarely because you don't want the thing. It's because something in you is trying to prevent a cost. That's not laziness. That's not self-sabotage. That's not mindset failure. It's protection. Your system doesn't block what it doesn't value. It guards what matters. So the wall you're noticing isn't standing against your goal. It's standing between you and what your system perceives as risk. So today isn't about forcing momentum. It's about understanding why momentum stalls and what needs to be acknowledged before movement becomes possible. So when you're ready, I want you to come back to the room, come back to the present. and write down what you were revealed or what you found, what you're going to be bringing today. Because that's what we're going to do today as a bit of a taster. And just give you a chance to write that down as I shuffle my notes around a bit so I can see a bit more. Okay, let's move on. So, naming the wall. Now, I have put some questions. There's a lot of questions on the screen at the moment, but I'm going to read them out. But they're also in your workbook. So if you want, you're not probably going to be answer all of them now, but if you want to go back and answer them or something like that later, you can. But they're really just kind of stimulus questions in a sense. So what was the goal or the aim that you wanted to achieve? Keep it plain, simple, not justifying. So no justifying, no judging. When you think about moving towards your goal, where do you notice a pause or a hesitation or a tightening? So is it in your body? Is it a thought? Is it emotion? Like, what is it that stands out? If this wall had a job, what might it be trying to protect you from? So choose what sounds somewhat right, not what is sensible. Try not to make, oh, this is what I'm supposed to say, or this is what, that this is, sometimes it doesn't make sense at all. And you're like, I don't know why it would say, why is that coming up, but let's go with it. And then ask yourself, if you can get to this stage, does this wall feel familiar in other areas of my life? So is this same thing repeating in different areas of my life? Or is this just a one case thing, and kind of type in with that. And right now, what is my relationship to that particular wall? How do I relate? Like, do I want to fight it, avoid it? Am I curious about it? Am I like sick of it already? Am I like resisting it? Am I like, oh, of course it's that again? Am I being hard on myself about it? Like, notice those, because that's probably the things I'd come up with. First would be resistance. I don't want to have that problem. That seems like a stupid problem to me, which is harsh. And then I would be like beating myself up type of thing as well. So noticing that, and just recognizing, okay, so this is my relationship with the wall. It's got a name now, or at least a kind of concept. Has everyone kind of got a concept or a name or something that they can work on today? Yep, cool. Don't make it too complicated. Keep it really simple. If you want to make it complicated, you go back and watch it again and add something else to it if you want. But let's not go too deep, because then we'll get way down into the burrow. Yeah, you might be working on that one for a while. So awareness comes before mastery, and understanding comes before growth, right? So there's not much point in becoming the master of all things if you don't even have any awareness around it, right? And I know I fell into that trap with getting so much knowledge and knowing all about all this information, but not doing the practice and not realizing that I'm learning, but I'm not actually growing, because I'm not understanding what it is that I'm learning by application. So allowing yourself to go and grow by bringing your awareness to what is actually happening, and it doesn't have to necessarily make sense. So now that we've identified a challenge to work with, it often brings up resistance or questioning or shame, etc. So we hesitate, we procrastinate, we avoid, we loop, etc. And as a result, we tell ourselves messages about ourselves. But trying harder barely ever works. Has anyone ever succeeded by just trying harder? No? Somebody? We'll talk about that later, because people who go, just suck it up and move on, it never works. It might work for the moment, but it comes back even worse later. It comes back as harder, just get over it, don't worry about it, like move on. It just comes back with this in the most inconvenient and most challenging ways. So if you've had success with that, I'd love to have a chat about that, because so far I've not found anyone who's successfully avoided something and it's just moved away. So notice what the messages you tell yourself when you feel stuck or blocked. So these messages could be something like, I should be more blah, 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 or I should be, what's wrong with me, or other people don't have that problem, or it seems like such a stupid thing. That's what I would say. Stupid thing, stupid, right? Or I'm so dumb, right? Those type of things, like, or, I'm a fraud, or, well, like, why can't I do that thing? I have this thing at the moment for me. My block is, well, it's interesting because I think people want me to grieve, and I don't know if I'm not grieving or whether it's, whatever, but I don't actually want to grieve, right? So I'm like, well, is that a problem for me or not? Is it a problem for other people? But it's actually a problem for me because I think other people want me to do it. So, is it really a problem? Right? But that's because I think that other people think that I should do these things, right? And that's my block, because that's what ends up happening is my message. Well, if it's not something that I believe, then why am I worried about it? So then that would be helpful for me when I work that one out. I'll let you know, just so you know. But yeah, working on that one at the moment. It's like that people pleasing part. And I'm doing all this really great learning at the moment about relationships and how I got into that really independent and I can do everything on my own and I'm so strong and look at me and wow. And now I'm starting to realize we cannot survive without interrelationships, without co-regulation, without connecting, right? We actually can't. We need somebody to listen to us in our grief and our moments of frustration, to be there present. That's what coaching is, by the way. If you haven't, if for the coaches in the room, probably already know this, but for the coaches, to the people who don't have coaches, it's about having someone actually listen to you, like listen at that deep level of just going, yeah, I hear you. I understand you, so that you can hear yourself. All right. Often that's where we're going. And I digress. I'm not going to digress. Don't let me digress, Angel. So, lesson 1, your system does not organize itself around success. It organizes itself around safety. So, it's all about safety. If you don't feel safe, you're not going to do anything. If you don't feel like you can be in a group of caring people who actually care, you're not going to open up. You're not going to be able to go to that next level of safety, that next level down, 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 to actually get to that core. So that co-regulation is here. Hold my hand as we walk through this path together. We can do this together. And we can go into attachment wounds, but as you know, attachment is another whole theory as well. But everyone has attachment theory that they're connected to. Attachment wounds, attachment connections of how they were parented. And again, I listened to a great podcast. Great driving home from Melbourne. You get like 6 hours to listen to things. And I listened to this great woman who I cannot remember her name right now. But she was talking about how to talk to children and how to say things like, it's okay to have that particular, it's okay to have a tantrum when I turn the television off. And I'm still turning the television off. You can be upset about it, but I'm the parent and I'm making that decision for you. And it's okay that you're upset about it. Right? How many parents would do that to us when we were kids? And be like, stop having a tantrum or don't cry or, all those type of things, right? But that doesn't provide safety. Absolutely, when you're in the moment and when you're flooded by those particular trauma things, that you might have a message, it might not sound like sense, but it feels like sense. And our feelings are so much more powerful than our thoughts, even though we think we can think our way through it. If our body is having a reaction and we're having a memory loop, there is nothing that's going to get us to believe what our brain is telling us. That's when literally we split and we have those two different parts that are saying, logically I should be able to do this, but emotionally and physically my body tells me I can't. And so yeah, that is definitely a lot of the work that we do in that area of compassion, and we get to that a little bit further on about what we can do about that situation where we feel conflicted and that dissonance that we have, where we're just like, how can I have two things at once? How can I be like the little kid, sad and upset, but also accepting that my mum is actually still in charge? That's a mature thing to get to. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's amazing. And that's, again, getting right down into the deep. So I love that. Yeah, I love that too. Yeah. So, and noticing that all of those things come from our past. So if 5 minutes ago was our past. So if
Mhm.
we all of a sudden have a feeling that's coming up now, then it's relating to a thing that's happened 5 minutes ago or earlier, right? Or 1 minute ago, right? So we're not necessarily often responding to the thing that's in the room right now, right? So
Mm.
shame and guilt is a perfect example of that, right? Because I can feel guilty that I didn't do something, but shame continues on. So shame is not something that somebody else did to me. Shame is what I feel as a result of the guilt that I might have got doing the particular thing, right? So if I hit somebody and I'm like, oh, I can't believe I did that, that's guilt. It's instant, right? But then I can resolve it and move on. But then if I beat myself up about, I can't believe I did that, what an idiot, like I shouldn't have done that, that's my shame. And now that shame becomes a pattern and a story. And that is literally how our life works. We create patterns. We've got all these neurons that are all wired and to have all these pathways that go, and how we create these little divots and transmissions is how our brain structures itself, right? So what do you need to know about all of that basically for today is really the very first step is that the reason we do this is for safety reasons. Our brain, our body, our whole being wants us to survive. So if we know this information, we know we're trying to survive, then why is it that we keep judging it and we keep harsh on ourselves and we keep doing all these things where we're in a hurry or we want to jump past it? Like, even if we use the example of the airplane, because that was a great one that brought up, you know, thinking that we have to have it solved is harsh, right? You're not going to turn around and say to a kid, just forget about the monster under the bed, you stupid kid, like just grow up, right? Because it's a real meaningful of survival thing. At some point, it was life and death, right? And that is what settled in the body. So I can't judge somebody else for that particular fear, especially if I'm still afraid of things in my life as well, because mine might be not so obvious or not so aware, but we all have them. We all have our fears and we all have our things that keep us safe. And some of them are more obvious than others. I chew my nails, right? It'd be great if I didn't chew my nails, right? So why do I chew my nails? Unconsciously, I'm afraid of something. There's something there. It's an anxiety response, right? Knowing that you're afraid of airplanes, at least you're aware. Like, it's great. Like, it means that you at least can go, wow, look at that. I have this part that's afraid of flying. And we're going to talk about parts soon. Huh? Yeah, it's already 11 o'clock. Catherine, come on, get yourself together. But yeah, but we're going to talk about that because there's a part of me that's afraid of flying. That's great. No, well, it's not great. Sometimes it's not great when it comes to me needing to get to business things, right? But I've got to, ignoring it is not going to make it go away. Or telling it stupid or giving it drugs, it'll shut it up for a while. But that problem still, what we've identified as a problem, by the way, it still exists. But the part is really just wanting us to say, I feel scared. So when we realize that part is actually us and we're witnessing it, like the wall, then things change. And now I jump ahead. So I'm not going to jump too far ahead. Let me keep going. Is everyone good? Is everyone kind of, I know we got different levels here. If this is going over your head, just let it, right? Just take the little bits that as you can. Don't overdo it. Don't push yourself. But I'm loving the extra bits that people are adding. It's really good. Okay, so understanding the response. So when your system senses risk, whatever it is, whether it's emotional, relational, identity, maybe you're risking, you've got, who am I? I don't even know who I am, right? It will choose protection every time, right? Now, if we know that every time we're getting a reaction, it's a protection, is that going to make a difference? Like, just let that sit for a minute. Like, Okay, so everything that happens in my life that is a block or a wall is a protection. Because a wall doesn't just stop you from getting through, it stops other things from getting through too, both ways. So that's why trying harder often makes things worse. You push against a wall, it ain't going to budge. Some of them are a bit more flexible, and they do, and some of them we can kind of reach through, but the reality is the wall still exists. And if anything, it becomes harsher and harder, especially if it's someone else's wall too. So this is where we identify the protection. Now I think from memory, let me just double check. Yes, so this is where I've got another share. We're going to identify our protector in this one, but this is another meditation where you get to meet your wall, right? So this one can bring up some things. If you feel, again, you're adults, hopefully. And if you feel anything overwhelming or your brain's starting to go, I'm going to, I can't handle this or anything, just notice that that's just a part of the process. That's part of your protector. That's part of the wall. That's not you. That's just the response in a sense. All right. So allow whatever it is that comes to just be there. You are here in a room with me. You're sitting on a seat or a bed or something like that. Right. And so you can remind yourself that right now you are safe. It may not feel that way. It might not even, you might not even logic it that way, but just know for the moment that that's where we're at. And that you can pause. You have the power of the pause if you wish to. All right. So again, I'm going to ask you to find a comfortable position. Doesn't have to be anything particularly. Be here, be there, turn cameras off, have a chat, do whatever be it. But if you wish and you wish to go in this experience, allow yourself maybe to put your feet on the floor. Notice your body supported. Let your hands rest where they naturally fall. There's nothing to achieve here, nothing to clear, and nothing to overcome. Just allow that breath to arrive. Notice you're inhaling without improving it, and notice you're exhaling without necessarily extending it. Just notice. Is it filling your lungs? Is it shallow? Is it deep? Are you relaxed? Are you comfortable? Where are you at? Your nervous system does not need instructions, notice that. It needs permission. When you give it permission to do what it wants to do, notice how it changes. When it says to you, you know what, I just want to sigh. Okay, go ahead, sigh. Allow it. It's looking for permission from you. So allow your body to arrive before your thinking does. And then bring gentle awareness to the fact that you're here because something matters to you. Momentum, maybe, movement, change, or perhaps you're at the exhaustion point. You're tired of pushing. You're tired of pulling. Without analyzing it, just acknowledge that intention. Now, I want you to imagine that your inner world is a landscape. Whatever landscape you choose, not too dramatic, just a symbolic kind of landscape, like a storybook way, just a practical. And this is the terrain you move through every day. Some parts of this landscape feel open, and other parts feel tight, guarded, or closed. Could be a forest where there's thick bushes. It might be an open desert where there's vastness of sand or dried up parched areas. Let your awareness, excuse me, let your awareness gently scan for where movement feels restricted. Not emotionally, just physically at first. Is there a place in your body that feels braced, holding, on alert? How does that connect with this landscape? Perhaps your chest, your jaw, your belly, your shoulders. Where are you feeling it? There's no need to relax it, but if you feel that you want to move it or Maybe your shoulders, if you want to, you can lift them up and down just to notice if they are there. But there's no pressure to do that. And I want you to imagine that this tension is actually not a flaw. It's not a failure. It's not even evidence of any weakness or any injury or any problems. It's a wall. And walls exist for reasons, remember. This wall was built at some point to protect something valuable. Just let that land for a moment. This is not necessarily something wrong with you. This is something that protects you. You might begin to notice an internal voice or a sensation or an impulse that's saying something like, no, not yet. Be careful. Don't push too hard. What if something goes wrong? It's okay. Don't argue with that voice. Notice it. You could even thank it for speaking up and go, I hear you. I hear that. Yeah, that's cool. Just simply notice it. Something in me is trying to prevent harm. Something in me is trying to prevent harm. Now gently ask, but not demand, an answer. Just an invitation. What are you protecting me from? Don't force the response. It may come as words. It might not come. It might come as an image. It may come as a feeling or a memory fragment or nothing at all. All outcomes are valid. And if fear begins to surface, see if you can just let it exist without amplifying it. Fear does not need to be interrogated. It needs to be witnessed. This fear is not the enemy of your progress. It's the guardian of your safety. Notice what this wall is trying to protect you from. Failure, rejection, overwhelm, loss of control, being seen too much, being seen too little, being alone, having responsibility, or maybe it's something else. You don't have to choose any one of those things. It might be something really simple. Just notice. Now, bring an awareness to you, the one doing the noticing. Remember, you're not the wall. You're not the fear. You're the awareness, holding on to both. Feel that steadiness. Even here with uncertainty present, you're still resourced enough to observe. You're the driver of your car. You're the person with the steering wheel in their hands, not your walls, not your feelings, not your responses. You're the person who's sitting there in the steering wheel. Seat with the steering wheel. Silently acknowledge that, well, hold on, I've got this for the moment. I'm the one driving. You stay in your seat. Gently, of course. You don't have to say it with gratitude and no judgment either, just recognition. Like, I see you exist. I see you have a job. I'm not here to tear you down. I'm not here to tell you to go away. I just notice you. For now, the task is not movement. The task is noticing, understanding where that wall is, what it guards you from, what it guards you for, and how it makes sense. So when you're ready, take one more breath, slow and natural, and gently bring your awareness back to this room. Feel your body supported. Feel if you feel the need or feel you can. Be grateful for the moment that you're able to connect. And open your eyes when it feels right, if they're closed. Okay, so that's the first part of like 3 or 4 parts. So anyone want to share anything that they came up with? If you need to write some journal, some notes down that you want to look back at later before you forget, some tips or something like that. This is where we go into the parts work. So after this, we're going to probably just have a quick 5-second break. kind of, because we've probably done a lot right now, I imagine. Is people able to identify their things that they're working with, their walls? See them? Some? Yep. Mm-hmm. Cool. Okay. And so the next part, we're going to talk about parts. So it's got to be a bit more theory based, but I just wanted you to have like that experimental experience kind of state first before we go into the walls. Actually, so what I might do is stop sharing. Oh, let's see if this works. Oh, it worked. I'll probably never get it to start again now. Yeah, so we're back in the room. I'll pause. Probably we could probably just have a few. Would it be a benefit to have a bit of a stretch and a 5-minute break? Yeah. Yeah, so maybe just 5 minutes to just kind of stretch and have a drink and maybe write some notes, or just, go and give yourself a hug, or go and jump around and, pick up your level again on that. Yeah, so just to let you know where we go from here. So we'll be doing some parts work. I'll be explaining what parts are. I'll be talking about how you can then communicate with that particular thing that you've identified now as a part, and how that can progress into communicating and finding out what it is. Anyone want to share before we head off, or anyone have any questions or things? No one particularly? Nope. Okay, cool. All right, so let's make back here at, I've got like 11 on mine. So mine's 11:11, but yours will be whatever 11, I'm presuming. Some of you might be in the half hour, but let's come back at like 16. So 5 minutes from now. How's that sound? It's not long, but it's a bit. So we'll see you in about 5 minutes. Awesome. Catch you soon. Okay. I'm realizing 5 minutes is not very long. I'm like not even long enough to kind of sit up and go, oh.
I'm gonna have to
But
go and
anyway,
get my food.
you're going to eat your food. That's fine. You can go ahead and eat your food. Um, yeah, it's funny, because I do these workshops and I just want to put so much into them, and then I have to cull half the stuff I don't want to put into it. And even then, when I cull half the stuff I want to put into it, it's like I still never, yeah. That's why a series of workshops is always going to be better. But, there's that feeling like you get so far and you're like, oh, I hate it when you get that far and you're like, I want to know what the next step is, and it's like you have to wait a whole another week before they tell you. So it's like, no. And a lot of this work that we do is actually available online. There's heaps of workshops, heaps of things you can Google, heaps of information you can find, plenty of different resources. But doing the work is the thing that we don't often do for ourselves. So actually sitting and doing what is my block, what is my wall, like on a personal level, is the thing that we quite often miss. So I know Susie said she's just going to drop off her son to work. So wherever people, I guess, as they come back, they'll come back. Let me go into sharing my screen. If this will happen again, because hopefully it won't just do what it did last time, where it just had a black screen, which it has at the moment. Nope, there we go. Okay, all good? And we're still recording, I think. Am I? I'm still recording? Say recording? Yes, it is. Okay, cool. It used to be up the top, but it doesn't say it is anymore, but I don't know. So this bit is, in case you think you've gone deep, sorry, but this is the deep bit, right? This is actually and I have a workbook. So I have to thank a certain person here. So I don't know those that have done ICI, or those people who know Relentless know Matt Lavaz. So I've been working with Matt Lavaz, and I'm part of his ISD program, which is intimate. I can't even remember. Somatic? No. And no, integrated
Integrated self-dynamics.
Integrated self-dynamics. That's
Yeah.
it. Thank you for that. Yeah, so I'm part of that program. So and so he has a bit of parts work. I kind of adapted it a bit to working with what I wanted to work with. I've done some IFS work. I've done some polyvagal and all those type of a lot of different theories. I love all of them. I love all the different theories. Done some tapping, I realized only just today that there's 2 different EFTs, which gets really confusing because there's emotional focused therapy, and then there's emotional something to do with tapping, emotional something or other. There's another one. It's called something else. But anyway, there's 2 different ones, but the tapping one is not the emotional focus therapy. That's a different one. So, yeah. So anyway, that becomes interesting. But yeah, so a lot of those different ones work with it. I don't have a AI brain, but I have a human brain, and I work with what seems to work with me. Parts work at the moment is really working with me. So give credit to Matt Lavaz's help, give credit to Richard Schwartz and his work on parts and IFS, internal family systems. And if you want to know more about that, I do actually have a video on that I did for an hour on IFS if you want to get into the details. But for now, I'm going to bring up the chat box again, and I am going to share you the little booklet that I made for you guys on parts. So working with parts handout. And this is you can use this for yourself, or you can use this for your clients. You can use this whatever. But basically, it is what I'm sharing with you now. So I'm going to put it on the screen. We're going to go through it, but you've got that to go through later as another booklet as well. Okay, everyone good? Thumbs up? Yep. Cool. Excellent. Let's see if we can go. Okay, so the nature of parts. Every individual, so this is kind of some background information so you understand where we're at. So every individual is made up of multiple parts, not a single unified self. Consider how a puzzle is made up of many pieces, or a picture has many elements. So these parts show up as different identities, feelings, memories, experiences, behaviors, etc., depending on the situation. So the parent self, the work self, the stage self. In this case, we've identified a part as being the wall, right? So a part can be anything that it turns up as, but it's something that is, yeah, we'll get into explaining it a bit more, but it's something that is not you, but feels like it's you, right? Or you're experiencing it as a you. So recognizing parts allows us to create separation between the adult self, which is what we would call the present self. So this is not like, hard and fast. It's just a concept of how we can have a discussion about it. Because for everybody, they feel it differently. But to make it a common language, parts work is the way we do it. So I'm not going to all of a sudden go, oh, you've got split personality. Look at all the parts you've got, running around. There's something wrong with you. It's not like that. I'm not going to turn around and you're going to start blaming the, no offense to anyone who does blame the devil, but, it's the devil's fault that I did that, right? We're not going to do that. We're not going to blame something else for things that we do. We're not splitting like that, but we are going to use the language to help us identify something different from present to past. And remember, past can be 1 minute away. So that's the present self is the self. It's the adult self because it's you, whatever age you are now, right? That's you. Your part is going to have different ages, different responses, different memories, different connections, different versions of understanding, right? So that creates us a language so that we can understand it, So this is not a theory. It is how the human brain naturally functions. So you know how something says to you, I want to go to bed, but I really don't want to. Like, I know I need to go to bed, but I don't want to. It's like there's 2 thoughts exist at the same time. Like, how do you explain that in language? Like, how do you go, well, there's, I want to go to bed, but I don't want to go. There's two different things, right? So how do you explain without saying, well, there's a part of me that wants to go to bed, and there's a part of me that wants to stay up and watch TV till all hours of the night, right? The language makes it easier for us to communicate, right? And when we learn to communicate, we can learn to connect with ourselves. So hopefully that makes sense. And as we go deeper, yeah, just trust that the process will go. So start practicing in this particular situation with replacing I with a part of me when explaining your experiences. So for instance, saying I'm hungry, which is obvious. Like if I say I'm hungry, I'm not like, saying someone else is hungry. I am hungry. But if we start to recognize, oh, I said hungry. Gosh, I must be hungry. Look at that. I just got sabotaged by a part. That's an example of what I warned you about at the start. See? I just changed that word hungry for angry for hungry. That's hilarious. See? That's my unconscious self, right? So that's a part of me that just jumped in and sabotaged that part. Perfect example. Let's try that again. I am angry. Actually, no, I am Catherine. But there's a part of me that feels angry right now. There's a part of me that feels hungry too. I wanted to jump in and have that conversation with you guys. How cool. That was a perfect example, by the way. So this subtle shift helps the step into adult self. Oops, step helps the step. Okay. And reduces identification with the parts, right? So when you start to recognize, okay, I'm overwhelmed by this particular emotion, rather than being able to say, oh, I'm so stressed out, right? You can go, hold on a second. There's a part of me that's really stressed out right now, right? When we start learning to use this language, things change. Things really change. So let's talk about that adult self. So the adult self is the biological adult, the fully developed brain, which generally starts at about 27, but is your brain that you have obviously state right now. So it knows everything from now back. It's a wise mind, and it's normally always driven from a place of love and compassion and survival, right? So it's pragmatic, it's grounded, it's conscious perspective, yeah. It naturally is compassionate. So it's naturally loving. It's surprisingly, if you ever can tap into it, when you tap into it, you know that it's got so much to give the present self, right? It's all the parts that hold it back and keep it safe. And some of them are needed, right? Because if my compassionate self just wants to go and hug everybody, and, some people don't like that, right? So I have to protect myself and say, you know what, Catherine, not everyone wants you to lay all over them and hug them, so you need to just hold back a bit. Okay, so we get that, right? So that's how we communicate. Only the adult self can heal and integrate the parts. So without you recognizing yourself as the witness to be able to communicate with the parts will keep sabotaging. So this is where the next bit will make a lot of sense, because you'll be able to witness what your wall is there for. That's hopefully where we're going to get by the end of today, which we have. We're doing okay. All right. So so we have the protectors. Now, the protectors are created in times of crisis to block overwhelming emotions. Now, when we say crisis, we don't mean like lightning strike crisis, but anything where we feel like we could be heading down a dangerous road, or hitting something that we don't like, or an unpleasant feeling, right? Our body naturally wants to avoid pain and suffering, no matter what. So it will create whatever it needs to in order to avoid it. So it's going to prevent that pain from being felt again. So things like dissociation, overthinking, holding back, vulnerability, procrastination, nail chewing, eating chocolate, being lazy, scrolling, anything like that, it will do to avoid the pain that it thinks we're going to re-experience, right? To just avoid not doing the thing that it thinks we're going to have pain with. So it's an experience. I don't know why I wrote that. Experienced as self. Oh yeah, because it's self-sabotage. So that's you So it's normally the best part you can identify is when you know you want to do something. Actually, Kim, you gave a good, Kim L, you gave a really good example of that. You're like, I want to be doing this in my coaching, but I'm not. So that's really, that self-sabotage is identifying there's a part of you that is stopping you from doing that. So you want to do that. That's the adult self, but a part of you is self-sabotaging. So it's it's a protector, which I'm pretty sure you probably knew anyway. Right? And then there's firefighters. We haven't talked about firefighters much today, but firefighters are the ones which just come in and take over the show. Like they just shut you down and they just flood you with a particular emotion or lack of emotion. Has anyone here ever been in a spot where they're just completely numb and felt nothing? Yeah. So that's your firefighter coming in and saying, nope, not today. Not a chance. Right. And we'll talk about this in the next section where we talk about what happens when you push on your protectors or when you shut them down or don't listen to them. That's what the firefighters come in to do. They come in and they're like the bosses. They just walk in, they just go, righto, guys, I'm in here now. You're not feeling anything except what I'm telling you to. And they just come in and they just, yeah, I just think about it like I used to work for a photocopy shop place and a stationery place, and we used to have books and pens and folders, and you can imagine whatever. And we had a fire upstairs, right? The firefighters came in and squirted the whole lot with water. Now, stationery shop, right? Imagine the destruction on all of the stationery that we've got, right? Paper on everything in a stationery shop, right? So literally that's what happened. Firefighters don't think about the repercussions. They don't think about what happens. They don't think about what comes out of your mouth. They don't think about what comes out of your fist. You know how many times people have hit a wall and then gone, oh, that wasn't very smart. Now I've got a cracked right knuckle, like it just takes over. Now it can do severe things like scrolling, porn, drinking, overeating. It can do anything that basically avoids the protectors. Because it's like it doesn't even want you. It's even, yeah, it's just like, no, not even going to go there, because it wants to shut down any kind of conversation. And it's often learned behaviors from childhood, because it's like your system is overloaded and it can't deal with it. So what other choices have got than to shut down, to preserve? So it's about, if you had a dial and you were dialing up the heat on something and you dialed it to hot, and it basically got too hot and it overheated and shut down. That's what a firefighter does. So what we need to do is learn to pull back on the firefighting like parts and identify the protectors and work with the protectors. If we work with the protectors, then we're less likely to have the firefighters jumping in and sabotaging us. That making sense? Yep. Am I explaining that right? Hopefully, for those that do know parts work, hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so awareness is always the first step. So noticing your parts before working with them is the key here. Sometimes this can be all that's needed to happen at first. When you hear yourself saying, I am blah, 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 or I am blah, reflect back with a part of me is feeling da, 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 right? And both can be existence. This is the thing that was like oh, right. So I can want something and not get it and feel that at the same time. So I can go, there's a part of me that wants this and is really angry that it's not getting it. And there's a part of me that is angry that that person, whatever, or this thing as well. So you can have lots of different parts that are there. And this, especially if anyone has had complex trauma, which I have, and had things that multiple things happen at the same time or across your life that you've never dealt with, it becomes enmeshed because a protector will set off another protector. And then you'll have layers of protectors. And that's when the work is really amazing to do, because you start to get to know which parts are sabotaging what. So for instance, the one where I told you where I'd stopped breathing, right? and when someone said to me, maybe you've stopped breathing, I was able to recognize there was another part of me that would have sabotaged that comment by going, don't tell me what to do, or you don't know me, right? But I was able to notice that part coming in and going, oh, there's a part of me that wants to tell you to shut the F up. But I'm just noticing that it's sitting there in its ready state to jump in and go and protect me. And I appreciate that, and I can see that, but I'm actually going to listen to this person. And so, yeah, but then that can lead to another one, which leads to another one, and that's when it gets complicated. And that's when really you need to be able to map it, and that's the co-regulation and coach work that you can do with people, is really just getting to start to understand all your different parts. But for the sake of today, we're only going to focus on one, because then it gets too complicated, right? If you start to get too many, then that part of overwhelm will come in. So if we can identify the part and give it a name or a place or a space, then we can address it from our adult state. So our adult self can then recognize the part's purpose and acknowledge it and connect with it, which is what we're often seeking, is that connection. So when we do that, we've got to be alert for that looping. When a part fully takes over, or it could end up into a firefight, right? So that sense of flooding, if you're feeling like you're getting hijacked and you can only feel that one part, then in a sense, that protector is turning into a firefighter, right? Pretty deep stuff, right? But just for the moment, that's like really, again, if this is too much and you're like, I don't get it, makes no sense whatsoever, just go back with the basics. Allow yourself to see that it's about I. It's not me, it's my part. So the goal is not to erase or fight parts or to discipline those particular parts or to change them. It's about hearing and understanding and seeing them so that we know their purpose. Even dysfunctional parts must be approached with curiosity and compassion, never judgment. I've not yet found somebody's part who hasn't had the person that they are with's best interest at heart. I've never found a part that isn't trying to protect its owner out of genuine care. It might have a very screwed up way of doing it according to an adult sense, but to it, that part, it makes total sense when you understand it. When you get to the point where you go, that makes sense. I mean, when you think about why, I don't know, what's one of the, why people eat chocolate, for instance, right? I'm a chocolate eater. I love eating chocolate. There's a part of me that walks to the fridge and wants chocolate, right? It's like, when I understand that's because I'm seeking comfort, then I can go, okay, so you're seeking comfort. I might not solve the problem. I might still reach the chocolate and still eat it. And I might feel bad about myself, which is a whole nother part, right? But at that moment, I'm making an adult conscious decision to go, okay, you can comfort yourself that way. Now, that might be something I need to work on, because that communication might be better. Can we find somewhere better to comfort ourselves? And just is something you really want to be doing. But if I meet it with resistance or tell it off, then it's probably going to push harder. And we can talk about that a bit more as we go. So unacknowledging parts become louder and more resistant. So here's the steps. So there's 3 steps in naming, in getting your part, understanding and what your part is. And this is in your booklet, but we're just going to go through these now. So naming the part. So we've done that. We've identified what the wall is. You want to listen for self-contradiction or resistance. So, okay, I see you, wall. I see you, whatever the thing is, right? So which part of me is speaking right now? So, sorry, let's go back one step. So I see you, wall, whatever. What is it that you're trying to tell me, right? Or what is it that you're saying? What is the voice? What's the feeling? What's going on? what was the one I had? I had one, oh, I can't be bothered was happening to me the other day. I was coming home, I was doing a big walk, and as I got back to back to the room, I was like, oh, I can't be bothered. I can't be bothered. I'm just sick and tired of this. I'm had enough, you know. And I was thinking to myself, that's interesting. Why do I feel that, right? And then I was like, okay, so I noticed my body, I was lethargic, I didn't want to do anything, and I was like, okay, I identified it and I listened to it. So now I know that this is a particular part within me, and I can ask that part, which part of me is speaking right now? And that part is the part very young, where it's unmotivated and unwilling. It doesn't want to do anything, and it's tired and exhausted. And it has a lot of unmet needs. It's a lot of that one's got a lot of work to do on. We never really feel fully fixed, are we? So step 2, separating the adult self. So use the phrase "a part of me" to create an invitation to notice the difference, right? So reflect the shift back by partnering or journaling. So then you can journal it, or you can do it with a partner, or you can do it with someone. You can say to them, I'm noticing that there's a part of me that is feeling this particular way, right? Now, the good thing about partnering is to have somebody then communicate back with you, right? So they can ask questions about that part, or they can just get curious. So when you're doing partnering, you really want to make sure that you're only asking curious questions and light, easy questions. You know, oh yeah. So it's probably best if I do a demonstration. I'll do step 3 and then we'll probably do a demonstration. So step 3 is working with that particular resistance. So understanding resistance as protective part, not enemy, and approaching it with curiosity. So what is this part protecting me of? So understanding that particular part and going, okay, yeah, I get it. You know, I understand why you would do that type of thing. So I haven't really set this up, but is there anyone who's got a little part that they think that they'd like to have a conversation about, or with something not too deep, just a easy thing? Technology. Yeah. And just for the record, I have actually worked with a few times, so we have talked about different parts. She's really good at being able to tap into her parts and recognize, and being very vulnerable and open, which I very much love about, to be able to do that. Not everyone can tap into their emotions as easily or as quickly. So if you don't, that's okay. We all act differently in different ways. Okay. So the next part here is really about understanding that we can't force our particular parts to push past their place. So as you saw with me, I could have gone into solving, I could have gone into helping her integrate the parts and everything like that. But it's not about me solving it. It's not about me fixing her. There's nothing broken within her. That part is a protector. It needs to be there. It's got, and she so beautifully demonstrated that with the first part that she talked about, which I didn't actually address and talk about. But the first part that she talked about how she recognized for a long time that she needed to get rid. She was trying to get rid of that part, and she's only now realized she actually needed that part of feeling connected with home and feeling connected with family values was so pivotal to her being able to process grief. So if she had ignored that part and dismissed it and got rid of it, she would have been stuck in an inability to grieve, which would have continued to, could have sabotaged a lot more things. But that awareness, which was so beautifully articulated, actually, I don't know if anyone else kind of heard that. Like, it was so beautifully articulated how she processed really quickly through that. Like, I have this part and I love this part and I want this part and I know why I want this part because of this. And she kind of was processing through her awareness as she was actually doing it. Yeah. I don't know if that makes sense to people, but it was beautifully demonstrated to show that when a part that we think we don't want then turns out to be a part that's so valuable because it helps us understand what's important to us. And there'll be a lesson in that part that is alone at some point, because it at one point was necessary. I don't know quite yet, and I don't want to suggest it because then that would mean I'm not listening and I'm not understanding. Yeah. Okay. So awareness without attunement creates backlash. And we're going to talk about attunement in a moment, but that's where we're going to go. So attunement is noticing the shift in the emotion or energy as it happens. It's about staying present with discomfort without rushing to fix it. This is where, as a coach, I have to be completely vulnerable and open and say, I stuff up. I stuff up a lot in this part because I go to solving, I go to fixing, I go to giving suggestions. I don't stop and listen. I get impatient, right? And so many coaches, and I've had this done with me, with coaches a lot, they don't listen. They don't stop and they don't listen to me. They want to fix it themselves or tell me how they solved it or how they fixed it or what it is to them. And it's not actually about them. If you're doing a partnering, you want to be all about your partner. So if I'm sharing, it's all about me. Or if your partner's sharing, it's all about them, right? And even with just then, I did jump in a couple of times and made some suggestions as she went into deepness. But if it was a coaching session, my job is, and no offense here, but my job is to shut up. My job is to shut up and allow the part to have its voice and be heard and seen. And don't rush it. So we need to respond in a way that matches what's actually needed, not what should be needed. Now, some people will go into telling you stories, and that's an avoidance. So you can call that out. You can say, it sounds to me like you're going into story. Is this important for me to know? And is it relevant? And they might say, yes, it is. And you can go, okay, well, let's continue. But often they'll go, yeah, you're right. I'm avoiding. Let's go back to that part, right? And go back to the part and listen to it. And you can do this yourself to some extent by journaling, because if you put down what your part thinks and then just keep exploring it. So say, for instance, Julie was going to go, that part, what is it? And, you could do that meditation again. You could go and explore that. What am I protecting? What is its purpose? Why is it here? What's it need me to know? And all these type of things, and sit with that feeling and allow it. And that's the healing. That's the integration, because all parts are welcome. And when all parts are welcome, we're in full capacity. Denying parts will reduce our capacity to the point where we'll just live a life we're not present at all in. How's that sitting? Pretty deep stuff, right? I did warn you. How are we feeling? So in your experience, then what I'm hearing you say is that at certain people can meet you at certain levels, but there are different people that will meet you at different levels. Yeah. So like some people will be able to meet you where you're at, but if they haven't had the experience to be able to hold space, they may not be able to do that. So for instance, you may have a partner, and this may not be your experience, but you may have a partner that doesn't necessarily able to hold space to be able to express to, but you might find a good friend or another coach or someone or a therapist or someone who can hold space to be able to share with. So you get to know who you can meet at that particular level. Does that make sense? Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I'm really hearing a lot of different things and resonating, and can hear your experience in this, which is really cool. And really grateful to have you here and adding this extra knowledge too. So thank you. It reminds me of that.
I'm grateful to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. It reminds me of one of the things that you said. It reminds me of that fact that I guess where I was going with the conversation is that we're not only going to have that one person who solves everything in our life, or have one coach that we go to that's going to be the person that solves everything. It's going to be a case of testing and trying and matching and finding your people. And you said, Kim, that you had a few different people that you go for different reasons, for different things, right? I think that's what you said, as far as I understand. And that's really important to know, that some of our parts work better with other people than what, so if I have a particular part that doesn't work with that person, that's not a bad thing. That's okay. You can go find someone else to work with that part, but that doesn't mean that there's something wrong or anything with this situation. It just means that we're able to be self-resourcing in the fact that we can go and reach to people who are able to maybe meet us where we're at and allow us to be where we're at. And I'll comment on that, and I'll open you to comment back if you wish on that, and then I'll go to. Yeah. I've been doing a little bit of work on like agency and autonomy, and recognizing, and this may resonate to people, especially the coaches in the room, is that the aim is to have self-drive, to know where we want and what we want, and to get what we want, but in a co-regulated way, because we're going into this world now where we're all independent, and we can do what we want, and we can go what we want, and we can be free, and all those type of things. And this is really something I've just kind of tapped into for myself just lately. However, the important part is being able to communicate that with other people, and finding that match so that we can release the need to be in control, because that's where we end up getting to, controlling ourselves and not letting anyone in. And we actually limit ourselves, and that's when our capacity shortens, and we like our woods or our forests don't have anywhere to explore, because we're the ones always in control. So I just kind of connecting with that idea of that new area that I've been looking at, Kim. So I just kind of wanted to add. No, thank you so much for that share. It's beautiful. Resonating, and I can see a lot of people nodding and sharing too. So thank you. Come on in. I'm sorry, probably went a bit different angles there, but. Yeah, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm hearing a couple of things in there too, like beautiful to use this work. It's not my work or my way, and that's the only way to do it. Parts work is not just one thing. IFS is a Richard Schwartz things, and if you go through his IFS systems, there's specific questions and the specific formulas, and you can do it that way. But each person, that's why with different coaches, you're going to get different styles, you're going to get different responses, and that's why you should. They're like hairdressers. Try a hairdresser. You don't like it, go to a different hairdresser, because they're all going to be slightly different. And you use what works for you. And that's the bit where we have the agency, I guess, because we get to choose how we try it on and how we put it on and how we respond to it. Being aware then of how we respond to it is the real work, right? So how we respond to a certain thing is our part's response, because we're not necessarily responding to right that moment. We're responding to how we've interpreted that moment, which is really, if you can go to anyone to get that kind of self-help, that sometimes if we're feeling blocked, I don't know what to work on, get someone to kind of awaken something in us, then we got something to work on, right? That's the part that we're working on. So yeah, I really love that and appreciate that. And as coaches, it reminds me to always be humble, because you think but you can learn just from the simplest of things where your gaps are, or where your thickets of your forest are, of your brain and your capacity. And then also holding that space for someone is something, I would wish that I'm going to continue to learn and hold and develop, because, well, the most gifts I've ever seen given when I've given is when somebody's just been able to do most of the talking for an hour. Actually, probably learnt that a few years ago when I went and did some psychology work, and I went to a clinical psychologist that I was paying a lot of money for, and all she did was talk therapy. And she said, all you can do is talk. And I was, no, I'm not. That's ridiculous. Why would I pay so much money just to sit here and talk? But with really gentle guidance, I thought I had nothing to talk about, but 6 years later, I'm still talking, So yeah, thanks, Julie. And that's the thing, is the reality is, the more we can process things and reorder them in our brain, the more we become integrated, and we can make decisions from a current self rather than a experienced self, that, like, as in my experiences and my memories, that aren't necessarily updated. We're not using the latest version. We're using an old version to solve the problems. Lots of sharing there, lots of deep things. I love how we've got a really big, broad group here of different people, and just notice if wherever you are is where you are. So if this is like working, or you're feeling overwhelmed, or just notice that's a part of me that's going, I need to know these answers. But that's not necessarily true. It just means that this is new. It's like getting on a bike. If you get on a bike, and I'm an experienced e-bike expert, and I'm like zooming ahead of you and everything like that, and you're getting on because you have never ridden an e-bike and you've never done all that stuff, and you start wobbling. This is probably quite realistic to Angel. She's chuckling because now I just realized the metaphor that I'm making. You might be wobbly and not do very well. So for context, I'm just realized I gave an example which probably wasn't very considerate. What does that have to do with forcing and cooperation? When we realize that, no, I don't want to ride the bike. No, I'm not at the level of everybody else, and that's okay. Accepting that where we're at, and just going, I might not understand all this stuff. That's okay. That's compassion. Compassion's a whole nother topic, by the way, but it's very important to this process, because compassion is permission. Permission is allowing ourselves to, like Julie said really well, not be okay. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to not understand. It's okay to not be able to ride a bike. It's okay to not want to be alone. All of those things are okay in that moment. It's okay to cry if that's what we choose to do right now. Permission is so vital, and that's probably the next step. I'm jumping ahead with my notes. Let me jump ahead. Have you still seen the screen? Yep. So you still got that on the page. Cool. Okay. So pressure versus permission. How do you feel when you're told to do something? How would you respond if someone did something that involved you without your consent? This is the kind of feelings that come up, right? Because what happens is, and this is a really great example for those that are in the room that might be thinking, oh, I'm not understanding all that's going on now. Trust me, I'm reflecting inside myself going, oh, there's a lot of stuff I'm going to reflect on after this as well, right? And I'm the leader. You know, there's a lot of things I'm learning in this process that's like, whoa, that's really cool. So ask yourself, how would you respond though if I turned around and I said, what are you, dumb, Catherine? Don't you know, you're meant to be in charge. You're the leader. Those voices, how are they going to affect me? Right? Being aware of pressure versus permission. So consider what that long-term cost would be if you continue the strategy that you've been using. So I want you to kind of now go back to your wall, whatever your wall was that you chose at the beginning, and identify that wall and just ask yourself, how would you respond if someone did that same thing to you that you're doing to that wall, where you're resisting or telling it you want it to go away, or telling it you don't want it, or telling it, I don't know, whatever the thing is that you said. How's that going to come up if you keep saying that, I should know all this stuff? You should know all this stuff. Imagine if someone kept saying that to you all the time. You should know all this stuff. You should know all of this. Or, in Julie's, you're not lonely. Imagine if that voice just kept saying that all the time. You're not lonely. Well, I feel lonely. Well, you're not lonely. You're not lonely. You're not lonely. You got all these people around you. How is that going to impact you long term? That's what you need to be asking yourself. Because that's what's happening every time you deny it, every time you ignore the wall, every time you don't hold space, every time you don't listen and you just move forward to solving. That's what's happening. Force is effective in the short term because it recruits stress chemistry, right? Adrenaline narrows focus, suppresses doubt, and pushes action through resistance. So at first, you may say output, compliance, even momentum. However, the long-term cost shows up later and sideways. Over time, constant self-pressure teaches your system three things. It teaches you your internal signals are not safe to listen to. Protection escalates and self-trust erodes. And then you're back to more problems, more self-denial, and having no clue who the F you are. And that's when we get into that whole, like, why do I bother? Why do I even have this dream or this goal? Just give up. There's no point. Because why? Because of that little tiny step you ignored at the beginning. That's all. The little tiny step that said, actually, it's okay to be protective. It's natural. You're loving. You're actually doing a really great thing. I see you. I know why you're there. Or maybe I don't know yet, but I want to know. So pressure versus permission. There are also quieter and cumulative costs. Motivation becomes brittle, available only under urgency. Rest starts to feel unsafe and undeserved. Ease triggers guilt instead of relief. Achievement brings temporary relief, then satisfaction. So eventually, your force stops working, not because you're weak, because your system has learned that change equals danger. At that point, even small steps feel heavy. Who's been there? Who's been there? Like they just can't be effed anymore. It's done. Yep. And it all comes from pressure versus permission. The alternative isn't doing nothing. The alternative is attunement. So when you work with your system instead of against it, effort becomes directional, rather than coercive. So think about coerciveness being, come on, you can do it. You're going to push through it. You know, that kind of, you know, the negative, what do they call it? Toxic positivism, whatever you want to call it. The kind of, you know, let's do gratitudes to make you feel better when you're feeling depressed, or let's, you know, put a Band-Aid on it. You'll be better, fine, you know, rather than, you know, kid falls over, scrapes his leg, you know, come here, put a Band-Aid on it, bye. Right? Is that going to solve the problem? No. It's like, come here. Oh, you poor darling. That must have been really scary to hurt that. Here, let me give it a kiss. Now let's put the Band-Aid on it and all fixed. Right? And just a really great example of how we're thinking the problem is solve the problem, solve the problem, solve the problem, rather than actually sit with the problem and attune with the problem, which just calling it a problem is a problem, right? I mean, let's just look at that, right? Why is the problem a problem? It's not really a problem, it's a protection. Let's rephrase it. Let's get better at understanding why those parts are there, because no parts get left behind. I didn't put this in the PowerPoint, but I should have, because you are greater than the sum of all your parts. So if you put all of your parts together and all of your problems together and stuck them all together and made the biggest possible problem or biggest thing in the world that's like so difficult and everything, and they all rallied against the present you will still win every time. Because the present you has everything that those parts are you. So you are the sum of all of those parts. So you can solve everything. So when they say everything is within you and they use it as a cliche, the meaning has been lost. The reality is you do have everything within you. However, how you dress it and how you deal with it will make the difference. That's the thing. It's not like the burdening of you've got the answers in you. It's actually the releasing and freedom of you have the answers within you, which is the difference between pressure and permission, right? So when you work with your system instead of against it, effort becomes directional rather than coercive. Momentum grows from trust. So we learn to grow by trusting that whatever we're experiencing is connected to something, a part. So we start to learn to listen. And our heart is our closest thing to us, our actual, well, what is it? Gabor Mate says it's actually our gut instinct. Our stomach is actually he says we've got three hearts, one in our stomach, one in our heart, and one in our head. Well, brain, stomach, brain, like, yeah, you know what I mean. So it comes from the three different places, our brain, our thinking. So we're driven from those three different places, right? If we are aligned with all of those three things, then we are able to fully tap into our full capacity, right? So trust compounds over time, just like force does, but we don't get the crash. So the trust builds and we start to glow. And this is my life vision. My life vision is to, so this year's word for me is hope, is to spark little light in people so that they can grow it and expand. So hope starts with a little spark, and then you blow on it gently and it turns into a raging fire. And that's what I would love to be able to instill in everybody, is believe that their own ability to tap into their power themselves and become their full capacity. And you know, imagine if you were able to use all the forces of all your parts for a positive way, what you could achieve. Yeah, it just, yeah, that blows me up. So force spends your future energy in advance. Attunement builds capacity. That difference is everything. So when they say go back to the root cause, go back to the root thing, that's what they mean. Go back to the little part and start loving those little parts and bringing them with you and noticing how much they affect your life. So pressure demands change, but leadership, and more importantly, self-leadership, creates safety. This is the powerful stuff, right? This is the bit where we're getting towards, you know, well, I say the end, but we've got some moments to share and breakthroughs in here as well, hopefully. I should go, before I go ahead with this, how's everyone feeling? Do we need another break? Yes, I'm getting some nods. So maybe we do need another break. I wasn't sure how long to set this session for because I'm giving a lot and this probably could have been delivered over or whatever, but like, we're doing here. But this stuff here is the gold stuff. It's in green because it's go, right? So I really don't want you to lose this or lose the energy. So if I can ask you to kind of like, let's just give it 5 minutes. Is that enough? I know you've probably got lots to do with things, but I want to get this bit done and maybe we can finish a bit earlier or something like that. But this is where we really get into how we develop that self-leadership and the capacity to ask what we want and say what we need and be there for that part. Yeah. Yep. All right. 5 minutes. I'll see you back in the room in 5 minutes. Take care. Have a quick drink. Got it back. Got your back. I need to see your lovely faces. I can't survive without that. That's one thing I know about my parts is my parts really love connection and love to be able to connect with people. And so even though I can't connect directly physically, which actually I have a lot of trauma around, I can connect via screen and I feel deeply connected to people that way. And so that was my biggest aha moment when COVID happened, was I learned I could be safe on a screen and be myself. Yeah. So I think a lot of people that I've spoken to have also experienced the same, where they could actually be themselves behind a screen. I think that a lot of teenagers do that in gaming and stuff like that, but it becomes unhealthy. So you got to be careful that it doesn't become an unhealthy habit. Yeah. Anyway, another topic for another day. All right. So alignment, integration, and meaning. So each person and situation require a different response. So although this particular part is about healing and kind of bringing together, it's not going to be the solution because there is no one solution. Each person's going to have their own way of working through this thing. But hopefully, even up until now, you've brought your wall and you've recognized your wall, you understand it, and it's starting to soften a little, so that now you can start to see maybe it's not a wall, but it's actually a protector, and you can wear it as a shield rather than see it as an obstacle that has to be got through or smashed or destroyed. That's the aim, right? So all it takes is these little steps that help us see that the string that we thought was pulling us back was actually the kite that was designed to make us fly, right? So recognizing how these things can work with us. So for some, the step will be action, but for some, it will be rest. And for some, it will be awareness and noticing. So notice those people. For instance, I'm the kind of person, and I imagine from the little bit we've talked, you may be too, and I may be wrong here, and I'm happy to be wrong, but action person. I wanted more action, more action, more action, forward and learning. And yeah, looking at your face, Kim, I'm thinking maybe not. Yeah, love that share. Thank you. I wasn't sure whether that was going to resonate or not. And what I'm hearing is that idea that And it's interesting because Gabor Mata, again, was saying this yesterday, was that one of the questions was asked, does your trauma become your gift, right? Often in situations that the thing that you learned to do when you were young becomes the gift that actually you become really great at. And his answer to that was yes and no, because it can also get in the way. Because
100%.
although it might be a gift and you may be doing really well with it, and it becomes now, like for instance, mine is awareness. Like people say, probably two main words people say to me is awareness and kindness, right? The two biggest words that people say about me. And I wouldn't say I'm kind, but they say I am, you know, whatever. I'm, yeah, anyway, wow. That one, see that part just come in again, another part, there it is. Yeah. So I've done some work with the kindness part, and I notice every now and then when it pops up, it is my self-doubt. So because I've recognized that when I do that, it's because I don't want the spotlight on myself. So
100%.
yeah, so I recognize that now, and because I know that's what the part is doing. The part doesn't want to be recognized because it's then a burden. It's a responsibility, and it's something that I have to take on. So I go, you know what? I don't have to, and I don't need to. I don't have to comply with that. So it's really cool that once you get to know your part, it's actually there with you. It's there supporting you and telling you don't have to do certain things, because that people pleaser part of me wants to go, come on, let's just make everyone happy, you know? And the other part will go, actually, no, you know what? You don't have to. We don't want to. And so both parts can exist at the same time, and I can be the adult that makes the decision in the room.
I love that.
Yeah, that's probably a complicated way of saying it. Bringing it back to this particular thing, sometimes somebody who is very active needs to be able to listen to the part that's saying it needs a rest or a breath or a break or a boundary, right? And how do they listen to it? How do they get the cue? What is it within themselves? What part is there that's giving you that you may or may not have identified? So that wall that you've been identifying, is it actually trying to help you do something else in your life or address something you're not addressing? Right? So recognizing that from awareness, that is really where expansion happens. Like, I mean, I don't do yoga much. Is anyone here a yoga person, like really into yoga? Yep. Okay, Carl. Are you a practitioner? Like, do you teach yoga? Oh, okay. Okay. Well, you can verify this for me then. For me, because I've only done it a few times, but one thing I loved about yoga when I did do it, and by the way, it's really great work for trauma and I should do it. There you go. There's another should. But anyway, we're not going to do that. One of the things about yoga is that that I did love is that you'll get to a position and then you stretch and then you go further and then you go further again, before more than what you thought you could to begin with. And when you're in a particular position, which I really thought was really kind of cool, I'm like, I'm at my extent. And then you breathe into it, lean into it, or do something. And then all of a sudden you stretch further than what you thought you could. And then you get even further than what you could. And it's like, I don't know what that philosophy is, Cal. You could probably fill us in on that, but it's just phenomenal to think about it. Am I reading that right about yoga? Gabor said, do we do this trauma work on kids? And he goes, no, you don't do trauma work on kids. You do therapy. You do yoga therapy or play therapy or Play-Doh therapy. He said, of course you're doing trauma work on them, but you don't tell them that and you don't experience it that. You don't treat it like you're treating problems. You treat them like you give them what the freedom to be and who they are and express themselves the way that they turn up, right? The things that we didn't necessarily get when we were younger, right? You give them the opportunities to push through those traumas that kept them back, or the things that, those walls, right, that we now have identified that keep popping up in our life. They get to reach through them and play through them and stretch through them, or, whatever they're doing, right? So I guess it's kind of answered my question inadvertently, Cal, because as children, we just push through them, right? We don't even see boundaries. We just do things like would be really, I can just imagine how much fun it would be actually to watch these kids just doing weird twists, like the twister dance, the twister game, you know, that they play. And grounding, I imagine. It'd be, yeah. Anyway, we'll connect at some point. I would love to know more. For the adult, for the one that I went to, I was just absolutely, flabbergasted? No, that's not the right word. Surprised at how much further I could stretch by allowing myself to, and by leaning into it, and actually not hurting myself because I was in a right position and safe and stretched. And it was like, it's the same thing. You know, it's like when you get asked to breathe, if you actually feel safe, and then they say, breathe even deeper. And you're like, I can't breathe even. And then you do. And you're like, and then they say, even let go even more. And you're like, really? You know, and I don't know if you've got to that stage. It took me 45 years to be able to lay down and surrender without actually falling asleep. You know, falling asleep is an avoidance often, because I could go to sleep just like that. I never had problems with sleep because I just dissociate. But being fully present and releasing, I didn't get to do that until I floated in a blue pool. Did the float tank in Canada. That was interesting too, but not the same result. A little bit too much control of me happened in my side. I just wanted, that was, yeah, because it was completely black. You had no clue which way was up and down, and you're just floating in this salty water thing, and you release, but my brain's going, any moment, the time is going to stop. So whereas when you get to that stage where you can fully just actually set an alarm, put it on for 5 minutes, and just sit on the grass or just sit somewhere and just release, you know, and then say to yourself, release, now even more release, now even more release, you know, it's really, yeah. So I guess that message is to those controlling people out there. Anyone in the room a controller? I am. I'm a controller. Yeah. And that's the thing that part needs, is to be able to know that you've got it, but you have to be able to work on that safety and trust with that part for it to be able to release. And if you've ever really experienced it, you know what I'm talking about. Because when you fully release and your part trusts you to release, it's like you just go into another universe, a whole parallel universe type thing. It's liberating. Anyway, wow, I get very digressed. And all steps involve, you've been waiting for the ... listening, right? So I'm like obviously listening away a lot to my parts right now. So I'm going to pull them all back in and say, let's stick to what we're supposed to be doing. So when we're dealing with our parts, when we're dealing with the different things that we're doing when we've identified our different walls, listening is the most important thing. And if we are unable to listen to ourselves, this is where we borrow listening from somebody else. Right? So that's probably a really great way if you do have someone that you can work with, or you do have a coach that maybe doesn't listen to you very well. Tell them they need to. But, you know, you might teach them a good lesson, but saying to them, look, all I need you to do right now is to listen and tell me what you hear. That's all. Just tell me what you're hearing me say. Right? And then when they say it back and it doesn't feel right, tell them that doesn't sound right. I'll say it again. And just keep saying what you need to say until either you hear it or they hear it. That's the important part. And you'll notice all the different emotions come up about it. You'll notice all the things. You'll notice, you know, whatever it is, there might be a lot of anger around it. There might be a lot of sadness around it. Just stick with the listening. Stick with it. Just keep listening and go, okay, am I hearing you correctly? Is there more? No, you know, yeah, you've got it. Yeah. And no, I think they've got it. No, if you think they've got it, then you've got into the head and you haven't actually really fully listened. Go even further until you feel like they've heard it. Does that make sense? Because that's the key. If I was to give you one thing and say the magic pill, it's that. And most people can't do it for themselves, let me say. Most people don't know what they want. They don't know what they want in that moment, and they shift and change it because their parts get in the way. But sitting with it and asking yourself, what is your purpose? What is the reason you're here? What is this wall here for? What are you trying to achieve? Yeah, yeah, really great point. And you know, so much in that. Even just on that last point, recognizing, like, and I keep reflecting back on my year gone past with, you know, my husband working out. Of course there's feelings, of course there's things that come up. But what I'm proud of is the fact that I've stayed myself to my stance. So I don't have to abandon myself in order to feel things that other people think I should feel. Or I can feel what I feel and be me and authentically, you know, what I want to be in that process, which is literally me listening to what it is I need or what it is I'm trying to deal with in that particular moment. Yeah, so true. And I love that you added that on the end, because it's not that I don't feel sadness. It's not that you didn't feel sadness. The sadness still exists. But it's part of the whole parcel. It's part of the parcel. It's like sadness is part of that. Yes, of course, I'm going to be sad that I'm losing lots of potentials and all of those things. But those were things that I've held on to that weren't necessarily there, or were there, but aren't there now as the relationship evolved. And so that's the noticing that those things exist. All of them exist, and we can all be, that's that, all parts exist. All, you know, my anger can be part of my bus as well, and it's all meant to be in the same space, that we're all working together to build the capacity of where and what we want to be doing towards basically just being existing, which is what I call I amness, right? Who I am. I am being whoever I potentially can be. What I loved about too, that you brought up about the point, that often when we are responding to something, so somebody says to us, well, you should be grieving, or you should be this, right? As soon as someone puts a should on us, we have an internal wall that goes up, which is a part of us that's responding to that. So our defenses go up, and that it becomes about us. Where actually, when they're giving us opinions, it's actually about them. So when we recognize that it's about their societal norms and about how they think we should be acting, we don't have to take it personally anymore. We can then go, you know what? Okay, that's your opinion. That's fine. I'm fine with you having your opinion. I'm living my life. Would you like me to grieve for you right now? Boo hoo hoo hoo. There you go. Does that feel better for you? you know, because really that's what it's about. It's about pleasing their insecurities, about not me not fitting into their mold of what society should be. It's actually got nothing to do with me. It's about their needing to keep control of it. And when I say there, I'm not meaning it like a nasty way. I'm literally saying we step into this realm of knowing, and which is often why we outgrade, you know, dare I say, outgrade our partners, right? Is because we step into that level, we evolve into next levels of things, and they stay stuck. You know, it's like one of the things that people said to me was, you know, quite often with men, they want you to stay the way you were. Women want to grow and go ahead, right? And that's the problem, is they want you to stay and stick to that. I don't know if that's the case with you guys, but, you know, often they want to just stay back in this safe old regular thing. And that's the thing, is this work is not for everybody. This freedom and liberty and space and spaciousness and capacity growing is not for everyone. People are quite happy to sit on their couches and watch TV and drink beer, right? That's their contentment. That's where that permission and pressure is super vital. If they don't want to, they will not, and they can't. And so when we're dealing with our parts, we're also dealing with people as well. If they don't want to do something, us pushing is wasting our time plus making more of a problem. Yeah, it works mostly. I just want to add to that, that only works if you are beside the person or working with them. So you have to be in that listening space to begin with, because the why questions can so easily feel like judgments or accusations, or, you know, or because the why, because often we do that to ourselves. Why am I so stupid? Or why am I, you know, why do I keep going back and doing the same patterns? Or why am I like that? Yeah, exactly. Perfect one. Those kind of questions are not useful at all. They're not going to ever get you any answers, because those ones are coming from a direct, it's a pressure point rather than a curiosity point. So if we stop into the making sure that the why comes from a curious place, which generally means we're sitting next to somebody and walking with them. So curiously, yeah, and that's that listening to the what is it that they think is at the base of it here, or what is it that was the motivator. Yeah. Cool. Great conversation. Oh, we have some, what have we got here? And yet men want to quickly solve our problems when we vent, where a girlfriend will empathize and listen until the end. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I guess we're saying girlfriend and guy, but I think we can meet guys that sometimes will meet you where you're at, and vice versa. We can meet girls that actually won't listen either as well. But it is interesting. And I would not do the quote justice, but that idea that when we rise to the level of the conversations that we have with the people that we're with, right? And so if we surround ourselves with people who are able to empathize us, we will rise. And so we tend to gravitate to those people as well. So yeah, it's interesting that what we need tends to come in our pathway, surprisingly, with very little effort. People call it manifestation. I don't know what you want to call it. But if you listen enough to know what you want, it will appear. It's crazy. It's like when you get pregnant, all of a sudden you see all the prams everywhere. It's always existed. It's always there. It's just that you're now calibrated to it. You're now aware of it. So if you're aware, because you sit there, you know what it is that you're searching for, all of a sudden the answers start coming in without even asking the why. It just happens. That's the kind of bit where you trust the experience. So this work doesn't end when the session ends. Understanding creates movement long after insight. So this shows up as more patience with yourself, early awareness of resistance, and a softer relationship with effort. So if you're going to take away tools today, those are the things you want to be taking away. More patience. This is, if we were able to have that patience, which is, I guess, is another word of kindness, right? Is allowing yourself to be patient. That when these things come up, if you don't have those answers, which I can recognize a time when I was just like, I need to know the answers to everything. It's like, no, you don't need to know the answers to everything. Or maybe you're not ready for that layer, right? That maybe it's because I haven't fully heard what needs to be heard, and that's why I can't solve that particular puzzle piece. Maybe it's not within the realm of the reaches. You know how you've got a puzzle and you're like, I can't find that piece. And then it must be lost. And then you do the rest of the puzzle. It was always there. It's just that you didn't see it because it was there. It didn't fit what was within your mind at that particular state or that time. And it's allowing that to be there. But being aware of our patterns that we go to, the things that are going to create this resistance. Because the minute we have resistance, a part is jumping in. And if we don't recognize, and this is where it gets complicated, which I didn't do. Damn it. I was going to do the parts mapping, right? There's in the booklet, there's a little space for you to do part mapping, but I would do it on probably get a big A4 sheet like this, or maybe an A3 one, and just put you in the middle and start mapping your parts, right? Give them names and start recognizing this part and what this part does and what this part does and what this part does, because they'll all interact and they'll all, somehow work. I see there's a comment in the box. Yeah, sleep on it. Yeah, exactly. Isn't it surprising how much time when we go back and reflect on something, or we write a note in our journal and then go back the next day and think about it, we have a very different perspective. Quite often we go to sessions like this and we just forget it and we move on to the next thing, right? It's just the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. It's like sometimes if we just write a note, or I've got these awesome chalk pens that write on windows and mirrors, and I'll write something on my mirror and it just rubs off with water. They're great. But they just help you to tune in, right? Attunement and stuff like that too. But yeah, if we can start to identify all the different parts at play, that's awareness. And we can go, okay, so this part is resisting this part and they're not aligning. It's like getting two magnets and trying to push them together. And trying to fit them in. It's like, I imagine it might be like similar to Julie's parts, where she's got the one that's alone and feels alone, and the other one that goes, you're not alone, you're fine. There's two parts that are conflicted, and it's like, which one's going to win? And it's not a win thing. It's actually about going, what do we have in similar? What do we have to work together? And this is more for people who have had, trauma or complex things that get interwoven, which is me. I will so often unwind myself, which I can feel already starting to kind of happen, but I'm not going to let it go that way, where you start getting, connecting all the different parts. It goes on like a chain reaction. Does that make sense? So noticing when that sabotages a conversation. And as coaches, we'd see it happen a lot, where someone's talking about a problem and then another problem jumps in and tries to get solved. But it's often when you when you go back and stick to the original problem, and if you actually solve that problem, not that you're solving it, but when you break through or work through that problem, they forget what the problem was nearly always straight away, because it like disappears. The part's not there. It just goes. Does anyone else know what I'm talking about here? Or I need to explain that? You do know. Okay, good. I was looking at a few kind of, knitted eyebrows there, and I was thinking, oh, maybe I was getting it wrong. But yeah, like how often you come and you've got this big problem, and then the problem's not even a big problem. It's like gone. You don't even remember what it was. Yeah. So a softer relationship with effort is the best way here. So just not being so hard on yourself, not being so determined, not being so have to get this done, but actually gently dancing. Dance it away. Have a jazz experience. Fast is not always forward. We have, when have you mistaken slowness for failure, and what pace does your system actually respond to with trust? I have found that the best things in my life have come through maturing and through the process of evolution, I guess is what a best word for it. Evolving and stretching and growing. It's like going to a gym. Not that I would know that. Look at me, right? But if you're going to lift 50 kilos, say, you're not going to start straight with 50 kilos, are you? You're going to start with a little bit, and then you're going to work your way up. And so that's the idea. You've got to build it and then maintain it. It's a process. So as we come towards the end, I'm going to introduce what we're going to have going forward. But what I want you to do right now is just maybe pop in the chat box, or if you wanted to come off, what feels important to remember from what we've learned so far today? What's feels important? Notice the word and the attention here is on feel. And you don't have to share, but if you feel you want to share. There's a comment in there. Yes, all that masculine and feminine energy is a whole nother thing, isn't it? A whole nother conversation. Yeah, come on down. It reminds me of, when you look back over a photo album, or you remember, moments in your memory, and you think, oh, those key moments. Most of those were not planned. Most of them just happened. You just happened to have the right time, the right place, the right moment, and they just kind of all fell into place because we allowed ourselves to have that openness to it. Yeah. So that's awesome. Thank you for sharing. And I can see some in the chat. There's the wall is protecting me. Yes. And it's like, is that even the response to that? Is that a response that goes, it's protecting me as in, I don't want it to protect me, or it's protecting me as in, wow, I feel like so much love and appreciation for that wall. And how can I work with it? Yeah. Appreciation in befriending it. Yeah. It's an interesting thing, isn't it? Because language can be so limiting in many ways. There's so many ways that we can describe things, but yet also it can be very limiting. And being able to express that. Choosing you, Cal. Yeah. Yes. That's got so much to it, really, hasn't it? Like, how do you choose you? Where do you choose you? When do you choose you? How do you know if you're choosing you? And if you're not, so many different layers to that. So beautiful. Remember how far you've come already. Oh, wow, Cherie, that's beautiful. Yeah. What a great experience to be able to share with yourself and sit with a moment of pause and go, look how far I've come. Instead of what I'm not getting, what I have got. Yeah, that's a real gift too. Beautifully said. Listen to it, not resist it. Yeah, that one's really resonated, like that one. All my parts deserve to be heard. So good. Be kind to yourself. Yes. I hear that one. Kim, that's a big one. What does when you hear that to yourself, and you hear, be kind to myself, do you allow that to hear? Do you allow your body to hear that and sit with it? Because that one would have so many different layers of emotions and feelings as it unfolds. I can imagine what I might feel 5 minutes now saying it, and in 10 minutes time say it to myself again, and in half an hour time say it to myself again, and I'll have all different responses to that, especially if you've got kids. Do you have young kids at all? Oh, yep. Yeah. So kids can really make you lose yourself very easily lose yourself and forget to choose yourself, right? Or to recognize that parts are in play here, right? They push our buttons. Our kids are like, in a sense, they're put on the world, I reckon, to make us face our parts because they pull up so many of them. And being able to, when you're in a moment with a kid, being able to go, be kind to yourself, like not to your kid, but to yourself, that's so powerful. Like, I would say my thing to that, and you can take it or leave it, but that word to me is grace. And it's self-grace. It's going, it's okay. You're human. It's understandable. You're allowed. It's, you're allowed to be whatever you want to be feeling or doing or experiencing right now. Yeah. Love that. The part today for me was the reminder. Sheree used this in today's session. Thank you, Sheree, for sharing your voice. Thank you. I really appreciate what you shared today as well. Well, come back. Yep. Notice when you feel resistance. What is that wall trying to protect? Yeah. And then again, with the protection, what is that in a kind way, in a nice way? What do you protect? I'm curious, like, what do you, like, get to the age of where that part is and the conversation, the vibration, the calibration of where it's at. If it's being cheeky or if it's being, stern or whatever, get with it and vibrate with it. That's a whole nother level. Okay, let's move on. So if today resonated with you, I'm going to race through this because I feel like this group here is probably pretty well on track to where you want to be, but I'm going to do this anyway. So and just talk about how we can connect further or not connect further. I'm still not great. Maybe I need some coaching on how to push my stuff, but Anyway, if today resonated with you and you feel the pull to continue, I'm creating a group called Becoming. Oh, this is what I've named it for now because the program that I'm actually doing is called Homecoming. And I feel like Homecoming for me, the name was uncomfortable because some people's homes weren't great to go back to. So I'm saying make your own coming, not your homecoming. So Becoming is what I've named the group. And it's about coming to your own home, creating your own home, creating your new future, right? And I wanted to create it as a container to deep. So I haven't actually developed it too much. I actually run a little group at the moment already that we meet every second week, and it's a beautiful little container, and it isn't probably going to change and stay the same. And I wanted to create this one, which is more of a one where people can come and people can go and people can, sometimes it might be just one-on-one, sometimes it might be one on many. So that's what it's going to be, the alternative weeks. What's going on next page? So what's Becoming? So it's at the early phase of growth. It's about acquiring tools, understanding patterns, pushing through limitations, improving outcomes. Those phases rely heavily on effort and cognition. They're useful and they exhaust people. Becoming begins when you realize that effort alone isn't the lever. So we're not there to just think and just push and just come up with answers. It's about being. So that's why I've called it Becoming. Maybe I should have called it Being Coming or something like that, but or B, I should have done a little B. Oh, anyway, lots of wonderful ideas. I can keep up building and evolving that. So it's a shift from control to relationships. It's a shift from pressure to attunement, force to leadership, what's wrong with me to what's happening in me. So it's a place where we can come and just go, you know what, this thing popped up during the week or over the last couple of weeks, and I just want to have a discussion about it. And as a group, we've all learned how to listen. So we all listen to each other without solving. And that's what we do. We come together and we talk about things. And I might introduce a topic and then we have a chat about that. That's what it's about. So it's learning to stay present when protective parts activate. So, and one of the things that I have noticed is often that protective parts activate other people's protective parts. So often you'll have parts that jump in. So you still need a kind of facilitator to say, hold on a moment, this was actually, Kim's was sharing, let's just listen to Kim's thing. This is not about you right now, in a nice way, but allowing that and then having that capacity to do that. Responding to resistance with curiosity instead of overriding it, letting clarity guide action rather than urgency, and building momentum that doesn't require stress to sustain. It's slower on the surface and far more efficient underneath. So we're going ground level. We're going ground level with this. And if you have worked with me, and some people have, they'll know I go ground level. I go ground. We don't mess around. Well, we do actually, but yeah, it's not passive. You act, decide, create, and commit, but you do it from an internal alignment rather than a self-coercion. Action stops being a battle. That's why becoming is best done in a container, not because people need accountability, but because nervous systems learn safety relationally. Right? We learn to trust when we own, like this group here. We have now spent, what, 3 hours together? 3.5 hours together, and we have started to build relationships. Isn't it interesting? Right? We feel a little connected. I'm feeling connected to you. Hopefully you're feeling connected to other people in the room as well. And that's what happens when we end up meeting together. We start to align. Change stabilizes when it's witnessed, paced, and integrated over time. Becoming's not who you should be. It's who you are when nothing inside you is being overridden. That's the whole thing. So you can join Becoming not because you need fixing, but because sustained change happens in safe relational spaces. No pressure, just an open door. So I wanted to thank you for showing up, and I'm not going to stop here. I'm just going to stop the recording and we can come back and share some things, and we can work through some questions if you want, or you can leave, but be gentle with yourself today. Drink water, move slowly. You didn't come here today to become someone else. You came here to understand yourself. That's where real momentum grows. And then this is the finishing sentence in the last slide. I now understand that. And this is what I would like you to take away. So if you are finishing up here now, I'm going to stop the recording and go back to the room, and we'll have half an hour, which is cool, 20 minutes or so, to share or ask questions or dig further or whatever you wish to do without the recording, because I know some people don't like that. And I'm happy to do that. So I'm going to, I think that was the last page. Yep. So that last question, I now understand that. That's the, put that in the chat box or write that down so that you can tell yourself that you understand that. I now understand that. Even write it to your wall. I now understand that you were always here for me to protect me, and I'm grateful for that, or whatever it is. Whatever sentence you want to write in, allow that to be.